Alright, welcome back to another episode of ADHD and Crochet. And today we have quite a bit going on here. We have a snail and some accessories for our snail. So to get started, I'm going to unpin our snail here a little bit, just so that I can access the inner curl. And I have been a little bit obsessed with this pattern lately. And he has a little rider, this little mushroom guy over here. We have a saddle for him. There's a lot going on. We're going to try and get through as much of it as possible. But first, we have to start by stitching our snail shell together. Going around the inner curve as much as possible. Repin this part just so I can get it attached here. But we don't need all of our pins. So clean up a little bit. Now, the snail pattern does come with a couple of options. I personally love the round shell like we have here. This is my favorite. I think it is just super cute. But there is also a pointed spiral shell that is also very cute. Now, obviously, sewing the spiral is a little difficult. I try it without the pins for a second. I just want to sew the inside of the back here as much as possible. But it doesn't want to have that tight curl. A little difficult. We have to get creative in how we do this. I also had coffee this morning, so my hands have decided to be a little shaky. But the coffee was good. I feel like it was worth it. I was also very tired last night. It was thunderstorming. As much as I enjoy the rain, I do not like thunder. I could have the pretty light show of lightning without the booming noises. That would be great. But that, unfortunately, is not an option. Unfortunately, I have to be reminded via loud sounds that lightning is dangerous. And my stuffing also does not appear to want to stay in place either while I'm squishing this around. But we're going to make it work anyways. There's also a sharp object there that I need to be careful of. Now, all things considered, I think this is a pretty successful spiral. We're going to pull this out just a little bit. Yeah, we're almost there. Just a couple more questionable stitches and then we can get to the easier ones. Now this is technically the giant snail pattern. There are 3 sizes. There is the small, medium, and giant. I used the giant snail, not that you can tell because it is quite small, but that is just due to the fact that I used very small yarn. But I believe the giant snail is the one that the mushroom people fit on better. Little mushroom sprites that come in the same pattern book. Because I did get Megan Lapp's Snail and Mushroom Sprite book, but I do plan on getting a couple of different attachments for the snail that are not included in the book. She has on her Etsy, Crafty Intentions, a skull shell pattern that I desperately want. So I will probably purchase that as well at some point. I'll probably print that out so that I have a physical copy of it, just like I have her books. Probably include it in the book. And there we go. We have our snail shell. I'm going to do one more stitch over here. Now, before I attach the snail shell to the body, we're going to set it aside. These pins, except for like 3 of them. Actually, no, there's 3 already. We're going to clean them all up. We're going to put the snail shell aside for a minute. We're going to work on the body, specifically the face here. We're going to attach these little eye stalks and the reins. Now the reins I did modify so that they did not need to be sewn to the mushroom person, because I have not decided on whether or not I want my mushroom person to be permanently attached. These little guys are technically toys. However, the mushroom person is made so that he can only sit. He is not made for standing. And the saddle and all of that will be attached to the snail. Now, I opted to do white for the body because that's what I have the most of, but I could have done pretty much any color. It would have looked probably fine with the obnoxious tie-dye I have going on for the shell. But I wanted him to kind of match his mushroom rider. We went with a white sparkly base. We've made our knot for this eye stalk. I'm going to go ahead and hide that string. And I'm going to use the big scissors to snip because that's what I grabbed first. And we're going to go ahead and put the second eye stalk on. And this one, I want like right there. Now these are a lot of small parts, so this may end up being a shorter video, but we'll see. We'll find out. Is sewing the spiral of the shell, maybe it's just because I'm hopped up on espresso, did not take as long as I anticipated it to. My brain said, oh, this is complicated and a little bit daunting. I was wrong. And these parts are very small. They don't require a lot of stitches to be put in place. However, we do have several more parts to put on. We still have 2 more eye stalks, which are even smaller, which sometimes makes things more complicated. And then we have the saddle blanket, the saddle flap, the saddle strap, the saddle, and we do also have the reins. And the saddle also needs to be put together because it has 2 parts to it. It has a back and the main part. There were a few other optional things I could do with this. I opted not to, just for the sake of, I didn't know how long this was already going to take. This is the first, not the first snail I've done. I really enjoy making the snails. I have a gigantic one, still using the giant snail pattern, but I used blanket yarn, so it is truly large. This one is quite small. It was hysterical when I made the giant snail shell with this yarn, the one that you guys just watched me sew together. I walked out to my husband and said, behold, a giant snail. It fits in my hand. I thought I was funny. He just looked confused. My friends thought it was funny when I showed them. He did find it funny after I explained it, but initially he was just confused. Now, technically, these little extra antennae are optional. but that's just technically, I feel like they are necessary. Also, technically optional to put stuffing in the antenna, but I wanted them to for sure stand on their own. I put stuffing in. And that is our first one, or our third one done. Our first short one, at least. Yeah, that's a good spot. I am tempted to compare the medium and small snails to this one and maybe just put the leashes on them. That is also a thing that is offered, is having a leash instead of reins, a saddle, and all of that. They can just walk their snails like their dogs, kind of like in SpongeBob. So I might make a matching trio of white snails with rainbow shells. But first, I am making something else, and I'm just going to cut this, I think, because it is problematic. Here we go. No one will know unless you watch this video. Now, if you do just listen to my videos, you're probably confused at what I just did, and I'm not going to explain further. You can rewind and watch. I'm not sorry. There we have it. I do have a bunch of this sparkly yarn, but I don't have a bunch of the rainbow yarn. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Now, this white string here that I have is for needle sculpting. I've got a couple of those in case I need them. But we're going to put the reins where they're supposed to be. And we're going to attach them fully now. And these are pretty much just going to be sewn in place. I want them to kind of overlap here. And they're going to be kind of like right where the mouth is supposed to be. I will probably use my needle sculpting to move the mouth over the reins a little bit better. Little mouth flaps. Just so that it's less obvious that this is sewn in place. And then we're going to make a little knot. And then we've got to hide this string and the small one. We're just going to go straight down with it. Go straight down with the tiny one too. That under there. And snip, maybe. Snip, snip on both. I'm going to use this string first for sculpting. Go. There we go. Now it looks like it's kind of chomping on it just a little bit. I'll put a knot down in here. Just to hold it all in place. We'll see if we need to do any more sculpting after that. We're going to set him aside. Move over there. We're going to work on the saddle. I'm just going to sew the back to the bottom. Like a little back support on this. I think it would be very fun to just have an entire army of snail riding mushrooms. Mushroom people. I think that would be super cute. I don't know if that's going to happen, but it would be very cute. I will probably do the medium and small ones, or at least a different shape shell attachment at some point. Because with the spiral, the pointed spiral, I don't actually have to sew the spiral together. It's crocheted together as you work, but it is sewn to the body. You have to sew the shell to the body, obviously. So I will have that at least. But there's a little less work involved as far as the after creation point, the final touches, if you will. But not always the best for content. I also prefer the look of the round shell. They are more cutesy. And I should leave that actually. Or no, I might need it. that aside now. Now this is the strap, and I'm going to leave that as it is, but I'm going to sew this little foot pedal here. I'm going to sew it down. Oh yeah, coffee was a bad idea. And struggling just to thread my needle. My hands are shaky. I did have breakfast alongside my coffee. It didn't matter. I even made sure it wasn't like a sugary breakfast. It had protein and fiber. Well, carbs at least. It had bread. It had a breakfast sandwich. This is a saddle blanket with the saddle flap and the strap for the saddle. So what I plan to do is we're going to attach the shell to the body, attach this whole piece as one piece, minus the strap, to the shell, and then we're going to put the saddle on top. I'm not going to sew around the front of this flap, I'm just going to attach it by the back. That way it still has that little flap effect. Now the cool part is that this also came with options for saddlebags, and then there was also like a little wedge thing for like saddle support that you could put under the blanket. You'd attach that directly to the shell for like if you want your saddle to be more forward on the snail so that it's not like tilting forward or tilting in a weird way. There's a lot of cool little ingenuity things about this. And there's also different saddle straps for different shell styles. The different shell styles. The round, and then we've got the pointed. I hope if Megan Lapp does another crochet pattern book, I hope she does one with her sea creatures. I do have her whale, and I love him. I got him on Etsy. Oh, there goes the strap. Okay, I'm gonna have to reposition that for later. We made it farther than I actually expected to with that. But anyways, I hope she does one with just a bunch of sea creatures because she has a narwhal, she has a whale, she has like mermaid sprites and weird fish and jellyfish. Now, most of her books are like build your own thing. So like her book of monster patterns, you get to choose the body type first, and then you get to choose the accessories, and then you can make whether or not it has feet, mouth type, if it has a pocket pouch or whatever. A lot of different customizable options, but I would love to have just a book of all of her sea patterns. I think that would just be so cool. Because purchasing the individual patterns is fun and all. I love supporting her work. But it does get tedious storing each individual pattern I purchase from her. So I do enjoy having a whole book of stuff. Alright, so we got this. This is going like right about here, I think. We'll figure it out. Now we are going to attach the shell. I want it to sit like right here. We are going to pin it as such. I'll make sure I get the back pinned as well. Oops. Good enough. And I might sew it like this. We'll see how it feels when we put the saddle on. Also, I feel like I live in such a whimsical place now, having lived in a desert first and then living for so long, and then suddenly I live in Missouri where we get weather and we get aftermath of that weather. So it was thundering all night, raining all night, and it was raining again a little bit this morning. And after the rain stopped, it's all foggy outside. And I have flowers growing in my yard that I did not plant. They are just blooming. I don't even have to do anything to make them do that. I don't have to water them. I don't have to care for them. I can just enjoy them. There is no work put into these flowers and they exist. I don't know what some of them are. I know I for sure have daffodils, which is exciting. I think I have a hyacinth growing. There is a rose bush attempting to live. That's been there since we moved in. I've not done anything with it, but it is growing new leaves since after winter. The only plants I have put in pots and have been taken care of are citronella plants. Probably trim and see about propagating the cuttings. I can have more citronella plants. They are very tall. But that is the only plant that I've actually put some effort into, and it's doing fine. I have two of them. I got so discouraged from gardening in Arizona because no matter what I did, everything just died to the heat and the sun. But here I'm like, oh yeah, things can grow again. They don't live in the depths of hell. There's also these flowers that I initially thought, or these plants that I initially thought were snowdrops. But everything I've seen about snowdrops, they should have bloomed by now, and they also are much smaller than these plants, so I have no idea what these flowers are, or I think they're going to be flowers. It's just a whole bunch of bundles of these tall, dark green leaves, and they're like a good foot tall. I don't know what they are. Can't wait to find out though. Also funny because our cats love going outside. We let them out supervised, but they don't like weather. And when it rains or snows, they look at us very offended, like it's our fault that weather is happening. But it's pretty amusing. We just can't grasp the fact that wet is going to happen one way or another, and that the food bringer does not have control over it. We are just about done with the main attachment points here. I'll leave that pen and see how I feel about it. Well, yeah, that's fine. I don't need to stitch that last one either. I'm just going to go ahead and make a little knot here. Or the yarn's going to make one without my permission. There we go. Sounded like I broke the yarn. I didn't. It sounded like it. And hide the string. Oops, there. And now I'm going to attach the blanket. I'm going to form this where I want it. I'll place this where I want it. the way this is supposed to go. There, this right in here, like that. And this goes right on top, like so. And then our little guy goes on like this. We'll sew him up a little bit once we get everything done. Okay, put the saddle off. I'll just work with the saddle blanket for now. And for this part, I just want to get the gray, not the flap. Now we're gonna do this. We're not going to do as many attachment points, so it still has the illusion of being a blanket. I'm going to go skip and go way back here. Do a couple of stitches that are going to be hidden by the saddle. And then we're going to come back out over here. Now the real attachment point is going to be doing that saddle strap. So I'm planning on stitching that all the way around. Only the gray corner. Technically, I did the saddle blanket wrong. I was supposed to do half double crochets. I ended up just doing or half doubles and doubles all the way around the edge, and I ended up just doing a single crochet. But it's fine. Find this stitch back here. We're gonna make our knot up here. And I'm gonna do it one more time. Just because I forgot to actually make a knot. Probably did, but it's fine. Where's my needle? There we go. Now we can hide our string. And now, oh, we can throw our pin. I have my legs crossed, and now my foot is falling asleep. I'm going to readjust here. Make the other leg fall asleep instead. I think this goes slightly over here. Yes, because you can totally tell the difference there. Alright, and then I am going to stitch this down here. It kind of gets hidden by the spine a little bit better. Oh, I don't need that anymore. And then we're just gonna lightly stitch all the way around. This further attaches the blanket to the shell, as well as allowing me to go all the way across the strap. It stabilizes it where it needs to. Mm. With everything included, it looks like my video time is about average where I usually stop it, so that's good. And then this part gets sewn into those previous stitches. Now I'm sure there's a way of making a removable saddle. Um, Probably not for the round shelled ones, but maybe for the pointed shell. I might try experimenting with that when I make the pointed shell, because I am making a giant pointed shell right now. We'll see how that goes. But for now, we've made our knot, another string, and slips in. And now we've got the strap. We're gonna hide this over here. Being difficult. And now we're gonna spend the last 15 minutes just trying to do this. just cool. Problem solved. I'm gonna pop this out just a little bit. There we go. Get a nice spiral going. Alright, and lastly, we have our saddle. I want this to sit right here. That. Just like that. Now, the saddle also came with extra optional things, like a saddle handle or a saddle horn. These were all options. I went for just a basic saddle for right now. Because I wanted to try this out. Just kind of see how it went. How easy it was to make, how well it sat there, if I needed to do anything extra with it. You know, all that fun stuff. I'm definitely going to attach it here. But as far as here, I'm going to go under the blanket until I get to the strap. I'm just going to attach it to the strap. That way we've still got that feeling of it being a real saddle. Since there's these nice front loops available from creating the saddle, I'm going to go ahead and use them to our advantage. And we are almost done here with the saddle. Go make a little knot. Hide the string. And this does not need to be utilized, so we'll take that off as well. And last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make him stand up a little bit more. I gave him a little bit shorter reins